when we talk about AI, if it's scary or not, or if it's good or bad, you can also say, is internet good or bad? The correct answer is yes. It can be both. Like, it depends how you use it. So the whole AI in general, I think it's very much along the same lines. So it all depends how you use it and what you use it for and what your goal is with it. That's one thing. And the other thing is that I think is also that it's inevitable. I don't think that it's possible for our industry to take a step back. Okay, now we're stopping with this. We're not going to do it anymore. I think that we're just going to continue, and we're going to need to adapt our business models. We're going to need to adapt our teams, and it's just going to allow us to produce more and maybe better quality, or produce less, but with better quality.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of CAD Talk. My name is Jörg Lansch, and in this podcast we are talking about computer-aided design, from software to hardware, from actual technology to future developments. Today, my guest is Stjepan Mikulic, who is project BIM lead at BIG, a relatively large company based in Copenhagen, Denmark. As my Danish is very limited, as my Croatian is, we agreed to do this episode of CAD Talk in English. Hello, Stjepan.
Hey, hello.
In your LinkedIn profile, you write, I help AEC professionals understand AI. So let's start first with a brief introduction about you personally, your personal background, and perhaps a few words about the company you work with.
Yes, thank you so much, first of all, for the whole invitation, and it was so easy to work with you until now. I mean, to schedule this call and have this. So thank you so much. I really hope that the people listening and watching are going to get something out of it, something useful and valuable. And this is actually the whole point with, you can call it my LinkedIn journey or my LinkedIn adventure, or what I started using LinkedIn for. But to take a step back before we get into the nitty-gritty of things. So as you said, like I am Croatian by origin, but I have been living in Denmark for a bit over 8 years now. I came here to study and then worked, where for the last year and a half, I work at BIG, so Bjarke Ingels Group, which is quite a known architectural company. And just to be clear, I'm not going to represent BIG today. Like whatever I say is my personal opinion, but I know that my bosses did tell me, you need to be clear with all of this due to legal stuff. So yeah.
Okay, and your educational background, you're what we call in Germany a Bauingenieur, so that's engineering, architecture, somewhere in between, huh?
Exactly. So, I mean, I got into the whole thing. My father is a civil engineer, and I was always listening to these stories, and I always liked the idea of creating something out of nothing. Just where you began on a blank slate, but then you create something amazing just through communication and through hard work. I'm not and then when I was choosing where to study, I knew that I wanted to do this, to work with this idea in my life, but I wasn't fully in love, maybe just with designing of things, as architects usually, not all of them, of course, do, nor more mainly just calculations and so on. I really like this course that I chose, which is, as you said, something in between an architect and engineer. And then later on, I kind of specialized in BIM because I saw, okay, this is where my skills are best. And I also had some mentors telling me, okay, this is actually what you're kind of seems that you're good at. So and so far it's been good, and I really love what I do. So yeah.
So your work usually is relatively large projects, large constructions and buildings and whatever. And what's your general idea of BIM? How does it work, and why is it so important? Is it only important for larger projects, or useful for smaller projects as well?
That's a really good question. I mean, I would say that. So let's put it like this: I have worked both on many scale projects, from single family homes to really large 20-story high, you can say that's my kind of current project here at BIG, hotels. But I wanted to say that for me, BIM is kind of data-driven geometry, you can say. And especially when we're going to talk about AI here, I guess we're going to switch to it in a bit. But I can say that especially with the introduction of AI into our industry, it's become the BIM, the data behind your geometry, is going to become even more important. It's going to become that it's all structure that you have, because we spend so many hours, and in the end, currently nowadays, it's maybe not many of this data that we add, many of this information are maybe not utilized fully. But I truly believe that this is going to change quite soon.
So, and come to our main topic, artificial intelligence. It's around within a few months, especially with ChatGPT and things like this. And so intelligence is a big word, but it's adaptive algorithms or neural networks or whatever. What is a main benefit for these kind of tools in architecture, in engineering, and in AEC projects?
Yeah, that's a really good and very wide question. I mean, and this is the question that I had in mind actually when I started this whole. I mean, how I got into AI. I'm not a superhuman. I'm just like really interested in what I do, and I wanted, like when ChatGPT came out last year, or when it became like publicly available, you can say, which was like end of last year, and especially mid-journey as well. I got super interested in this, and I was like, okay, maybe there's a solution to many of our problems. And the big problem in our industry are like the lack of people. Like there's like the demand for us as architects, as designers, engineers, far outreaches the supply that we have. Even though it might not seem like that in many cases, but like if we look at generally, house prices and like are just rising. We're always missing like buildings to live in, to work in, and so on. So coming back to like how I actually got involved with AI was that like out of the pure interest, you can say, like when last end of the year, ChatGPT and Midjourney became publicly available. I wanted to, I mean, of course, as many of probably of the listeners have tried it themselves. I was also one of those. But then I noticed that there were like a bunch of other tools, a bunch of other companies posting what they have with AI. I think that the ChatGPT becoming publicly available just like maybe kickstarted some of those startups. So they also published their tools. And then I started like analyzing what's actually out there. And after making a ton of bookmarks on in my browser, I actually decided to make a list, a Notion page, publicly available Notion page, where there are actually now, 9 months later, there are almost 400 tools specifically made for the AEC. So there's a lot of innovation going on. And I mean, when I say 400 tools, meaning that every tool that I found that could be relevant to the AEC, meaning both from the start of design, but also to construction and so on. I just wanted to put a link and maybe somebody can use it. I also kind of categorized it. So I do invite all listeners to go and check it out. It's publicly available. It's free. And it should be like it should be like a good maybe database for the AEC. Not to get overwhelmed, but also not to get like only like 1 or 2 or 5 solutions, but maybe there's a solution perfect for you. So yeah, that's how I got started. And like the whole idea of AI, I think it's just to solve many of our problems in the industry, which, as I mentioned, were like the lack of people we have, but also some like automatizations, so we can quickly or in a much quicker way, in a much more quality way, solve our projects and solve the issues on them.
I've seen in a presentation use of AI, or they called it AI. It's more like some automation thing, and it was in BricsCAD, that a command called Bimify, where you have one detail and make it right, and then the tool automatically searches in the whole file or the whole model for similar details and ask if you transpond the same detail there. Is this something you're talking about, or is it more general AI?
Well, I mean, the case that you presented just now, I think that it's a really good example of what AI can actually help with. Because right now we're actually leaving it. First of all, I think that the branch in general is taking projects more like specifically. Every project is like it's a unique point. It's a unique, like never happened before. And of course, there are always like unpredictable things, and it's another building site. But many things can be standardized in a way, especially like when you produce a bunch of them and so on. So, for example, BricsCAD, as you said, it's a really good example. I think that I don't know maybe the specifics in depth of that software, but I do know that they're really good with this kind of combination between CAD and BIM and so on. So this case that you mentioned, like my background is more of a general, as you said, because general research what's happening. But I do think that soon, especially in the next coming months, it's gonna like the whole AI picture in the AC is gonna become more crystallized. So instead of me saying, okay, there are 400 tools, probably there's gonna be like, okay, maybe there's 30 or maybe there's 10 that are like really good that you need to watch out for. because like to start a company, maybe it's not super hard to start some project. It's not super hard, but to actually keep up with it and to be like to have this edge that it's needed in the industry, that is kind of quite hard, and to have a team behind it. So I think that we're coming to this crystallization point, and I think that's beneficial to us all, not to have like that to be overwhelmed with choices, but also to have some competition in the industry to have the best solution.
I understand that you have the list of tools you collected publicly available, so we perhaps could put this in the show notes of this episode so people can watch out afterwards. Do you have one, let's say, very good or perhaps very funny or interesting example of the applications you found?
I mean, yeah. So coming back to the list, yes, we can put it in the show notes, definitely. It's a Notion. People can also duplicate this template, and it's updated regularly. So this is probably, if you duplicate the template, you're probably going to miss out on this, meaning that on the updates that I put, I every time I see a new tool, I kind of analyze it. I see it, like I put it in. So this is like constantly updated. But when you ask me like about specific examples of maybe the most fun tool, I mean, I think on this, and I'm not saying this is the best currently. I'm not saying this is the best maybe business case, but it's definitely a great tool, and it's something very kind of cool. There is competition of like my favorite tools, but I think one of them is definitely Hypar. And Hypar is like, you can say it's ChatGPT to make buildings. So you can text to BIM. You can put your text prompt in and you get a BIM model out of it. So what they showcase with their kind of tool is pretty amazing. It is, you can, relatively simple in a way, but it's also quite like advanced, and it's somewhat scary as well. Like, you know, you can get a whole BIM model out of just a text prompt, which is yeah. But in order to like, I mean, this is, I think that the best approach to this, I mean, you can put it like this. I think that if you ask, like, if we can actually cover, is it okay that we cover this question of AI? Is it scary, or should you be afraid? Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yes, that would have been my next question.
Okay, perfect. No, because I mean, I have this, like, when we talk about AI, if it's scary or not, or if it's good or bad, you can also say, is internet good or bad?
It's there.
Exactly. The correct answer is yes. Like, it can be both. Like, it depends how you use it, you know. So the whole AI in general, I think it's very much along the same lines. It all depends how you use it and what you use it for and what your goal is with it. Of course, like, you know, so that's why, that's one thing. And the other thing is that I think is also that it's inevitable. I don't think that it's possible for our industry to take a step back. Okay, now we're stopping with this. We're not going to do it anymore. I think that we're just going to continue, and we're going to need to adapt our business models. We're going to need to adapt our teams. We're going to it's just going to allow us to produce more and maybe better quality, or produce less, but better quality. So yeah, I think it's, and I think that the best approach anybody can have is not to be cynical about it and just point out the mistakes. It is still early, so it's not going to happen in a year, but it's going to happen within a few years. Like, the best approach is just to keep learning and keep your eyes open and just try it out. Like, I mean, the companies making these tools are making it for you anyway. So it's you who should use it in the end. So I think that this we should remember to keep in mind. Yeah.
So, but in general, you're of course you're interested in this technology, so you're looking forward to it, and you're researching the details and the possibilities. You're not afraid to lose your job, that in 5 or 10 years' time nobody would need you, but probably it gets more efficient. So a company like the one you work for, or other architectural companies, could do more or better work with less people.
Good.
That's always, if you look back from first steam engine, that's always the case, that new technologies are meant to do the same work with less people, or do more things, what we haven't had in the past.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if you ask me if I'm afraid of, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm afraid. I'm actually super excited about this, because I don't think I'm the only one here. How many times have we been working on projects and you like just clock in and you're like putting some dimensions on a drawing or whatever it might be, like checking a paper, and you're like, it's 2023. Can't we do this better? Can't we do this smarter? You know, I don't know about the people listening, but to me, it happens, I wouldn't say every day, but quite often. And I just can't wait that like something comes in and solves this. And I can see that there's a lot of promise out there. So yeah, I'm super excited. And I hope that people can understand the value proposition of these tools. Yeah. Okay.
Stjepan, thanks a lot. That's very interesting. And you're a very enthusiastic person, and looking into the future, that's always interesting. Thanks a lot that you have been our guest today.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and thank you so much. I mean, I can also say that if people want to learn more, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I do, even though I'm getting kind of bombarded right now with messages and so on, I do answer all of them. I stay up late because I just, when you love what you do and when you're so passionate about this, and also, I mean, I started this whole thing. Maybe it sounds silly, but because I felt a calling for this. I really felt something in me. Okay, this is something I should do, something I should go out with. And it's been, it's been great. It's been an exciting journey, and I hope that people will be along with it. And thank you so much for the invitation. I really appreciate podcasts, especially the ones so well organized, so focused and structured like yours. And I'm super happy to have done this with you, and I hope that people have got at least a bit of value out of it. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so then let's switch back to German for the ending. Ich hoffe natürlich, dass Ihnen diese Folge gefallen hat. Für Lob, aber auch Kritik bin ich immer offen. Schreiben Sie mir doch einfach mal, was Ihnen gefällt und was wir noch verbessern können. Am einfachsten geht das per E-Mail an info@cadtalk.de. Und wenn Sie es nicht schon gemacht haben, dann klicken Sie jetzt direkt auf Folgen oder Abonnieren in Ihrem Podcast-Player, damit Sie keine zukünftige Folge des CAD Talks mehr verpassen. Für heute sage ich Tschüss und auf Wiederhören.